in most of the cases, it's going to be internal movements. People are staying within their borders. They may cross the border, but most of the available data says that this is internal. And then in terms of the applicable law, we can see that national law will apply, so it's important to make national law right. The IDP guidelines will apply to any internal movement, and if they cross the border, there's a gap. Okay, so there's a gap in the normative framework. And again, this is also a work in progress, so anyone who has comments I'm very interested to hear. But there could be another column, and there will be another column, actually classifying the various types of migrants in terms of environmental refugee, climate refugee, or environmental migrant, environmental displaced person, on this basis. And then once you have a classification, it will be easier to look at the norms and decide which, if we call sudden and severe natural disaster people climate refugees or environmental refugees, and certain protections apply, you can distinguish through this grid. The second one, environmental degradation. So this is like in China, Western China, there's desertification, a lot of less water. People may move because there are droughts, they can't farm anymore. So initially it's going to be temporary. So later on, with the additional effects of climate change, it may be permanent. And this is a real question. Is it voluntary or is it forced? If a person decides to move to take preventive action because they're scared of natural disaster happening, earthquake, or if they leave because there is a drought coming, what sort of migration is that? Is it voluntary? Is it looking for better conditions on basis other than environment? Or is it doing the right thing? It's effectively taking preventive action, and you count it as forced, and therefore if we were to afford any benefits to environmental migrants, they should get it as well. So these are some of the questions that I hope you're thinking about, and in the discussion we can talk about. So in terms of this environmental degradation, most of them are internal. Yes, they may cross a border. If it's internal, the guiding principles, IDP principles, apply for what they're worth, but there is still a normative gap in the framework. Just running through the next one, if a state loses all of its territory, again, Maldives, Tuvalu, the movement is going to be permanent. As well, you'll see in some of those submerged island states, not only a state losing all of its territory, but it may lose some of its territory. Bangladesh, even Papua New Guinea, is relocating some people in some of the outer islands already. The Karatat Islands are also being located, so people there. So if you lose some of your territory, there may also be movement, and it may be temporary or it may be permanent. In all cases, I think when you're losing part of the land, it's going to be forced. In the case of submerged islands, of course they will cross a border. Tuvalu, whether they move to New Zealand or move to Australia, at the moment there's a gap. What are we going to do with them? These people may be, at the moment, stateless persons. I mean, if Tuvalu is underwater, do they have a Tuvalu citizenship? What nationality are they? So this is a real huge area for international lawyers to actually think through. And some of the other issues that arise, it's not just about the individuals, but it's about the sovereignty of the state and who is responsible for the state losing its rights, its sovereignty. And then what recompense can it get? And I'll just throw out a few ideas we can talk about more later. But the states have exclusive economic zones around their territorial waters, okay, and where they can fish, where they can drill, whatever, and they are valuables. And one of the ideas I can throw to you is there may be some bargaining power in relation to keeping the territorial waters, which will still be shallower and still be of value after they're submerged, in a trade-off for Australia or New Zealand taking Tuvalu. So we have to think through those issues of state sovereignty, of compensation, and also what happens to these people in terms of them being stateless.